Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new The Hacker Factory podcast with hacker maker Phillip Wylie. You're about to discover what the role of a professional hacker entails, the different specializations it holds, and what it takes to learn and become one. Enjoy the conversation as Phillip and guests unveil the secrets of professional hacking, a mysterious, intriguing, and often misunderstood occupation. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Hello and welcome to the Hacker Factory podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Wylie. I refer to myself as the hacker maker because I teach ethical hacking as well as mentor aspiring hackers. And today I'm honored to have Crystal on our show. She does all sorts of cybersecurity related tasks as well as some physical pen testing. And so I think she's really going to be a great inspirational guest for you all to learn from today. Welcome to the show, Crystal. Can you tell us about yourself?
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I feel like you could have chosen a million other people. So I am so grateful to be able to share my story and hope that I can help inspire and teach anyone trying to get into this field. So my background started, it's a very non-traditional story in my eyes anyway. I started out and am still in the military. I've been in the Army for 18 and a half years. And before I joined the InfoSec community, I did about 12 years of military intelligence work. That work consisted of targeting. So my background was, incredibly analytical, a ton of research, that kind of driven mindset of figuring out the facts that aren't so easily available. I have multiple deployments, which, were some of the greatest times that I've ever spent working. I came home and decided that I wanted to focus my career stateside, and I'm a protector at nature, and I wanted to, or protector by nature, and I wanted to kind of protect my community, something a little closer. So I walked away from that career at 33 and decided to go to a brick and mortar school. I have a degree in digital forensics. I thought that was going to be, one of the ways to get into the field. This was kind of before I did any research whatsoever. And I just pulled the trigger and started running. So that's kind of how this all started. So 3 or 4 years ago, I completed my degree in 3 years. I then aligned my military career, transferring from the intel world over to incident response. And I was placed on a team that responds for the state. And that's kind of what catapulted me into what I'm doing now.
Oh, very interesting story. And this is the reason why everyone's story is important, because you've got a lot of people trying to move from the military into, the traditional world or outside of military life. And so those stories are helpful because I run across a lot of people that I mentor that are trying to figure out how they can pivot from military life into the business world. So that's a very interesting story. So kind of what, as far as, your education, what type of training did you do? Is it all like based on a college degree? Did you do any kind of certification related training or any kind of industry specific training? Could you describe your education background?
Yeah. So it's funny. I don't really use much of my degree, and nor did I expect to. I found a topic that was interesting and figured, if the military was going to pay for me to go to school, I might as well learn, a new skill. And before, I considered myself an above average user, but not anywhere near, some of the people, most of the people that I come across in this field. I had no idea what I was doing. And while in school, trying to keep up with kids who've been doing it since they were 12, I had to study kind of twice as hard and figure out like, okay, how am I going to teach this to myself and keep up with them? So it was definitely a challenge. I do have one certification now. I have GSEC. It was a requirement for my position in the military. It was definitely a very broad and a lot of information when I was studying. So it was a good baseline for me. I learned not necessarily how to do things, but more so like concepts behind everything. So it really helped me. After coming into the field, I definitely think that there are a ton of other ways to do it. And I just chose the route of a degree because I felt like I was so far behind everyone already. And I thought maybe formal training would kind of help me with that. As far as the military side of the house, doing intelligence and doing targeting really helped me because of, that's how my mindset already was kind of coded. Constantly thinking, what else? How do I prove this? How do I find this? Just ripping things apart all the time. And then turning that into a passion that I did. I started reading about, body language and facial expressions and interacting with people, and discovered Paul Ekman. And it just really went off from there. That's where I started kind of finding my niche and what I really, really love doing. So no, I don't know Python, and no, I have no idea how to, do most of the things that I read on Twitter, but I really enjoy people. I enjoy interacting. I enjoy kind of figuring them out. And so once I had a degree, I had this passion, I had all of this, experience doing this in the military. I said, okay, how can I turn this into a job? So I was handed an opportunity. Basically, I just applied and said, screw it, let's try. And I got accepted, and I started physical pen testing, and it was completely life-changing.
Oh, very cool. That's one of the things about the technical side of things that, some technical folks or your nerdy folks just sometimes don't really understand the human element. So that's, pretty tough in itself. I think that's harder for most technical people, and to have that skill. And so that's one of the nice things about the show. Anyone that's the listeners is to realize that, there's stuff like physical pen testing. So if you really don't get into, coding or writing exploits, that doesn't sound interesting to you. Some people, this is what kind of draws people to pen testing to begin with. Is pen testing is kind of like spy kind of stuff. And then the kind of stuff you're doing is even more so.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, doing this, I've learned that, okay, I definitely want to be more technical, and I'm focusing on that. I got a taste of kind of the dev world and an exercise that we did last year, and again this year. And I think that I'm finding my path and figuring out, okay, here's what I want to focus on now to kind of expand my horizons. But yeah, it's so exciting to me. So
that's good. And, if you're passionate about what you do, it's just so much easier to put in the extra time and effort learning. And if you have to work late, it's not as big of a deal as if it's in a job doing something you don't like to do.
Yeah, people outside of this career field, I don't have very many in-person friends that do similar things. They don't understand. They're like, man, you're always at your desk, you're always working, you're always doing this. And I'm like, I'm not working. Like it's something that I love to do. I just signed up for it was so random, and I saw it and I was like, oh my God, that would be a really great skill to have. I saw there was like a deal that came across for an American Sign Language course. I was like, wow, I can sign the alphabet, but I don't know anything else. Like, so why not do this? It's interesting. It's something that, a lot of people don't know. It could absolutely help me in the future. And then it gives me another group that I'm now able to communicate. So communication to me is extremely important. If you can't relate to someone, or you can't communicate to them, what's the point?
Yeah, that's good. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, most people think about other languages, verbal languages, but they forget about sign language.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. Do you feel like your time in the military helped you understand the adversarial mindset more?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's what started driving this whole career change, was because I constantly thought as a red teamer, you know, it, and that kind of like, excited me. Like it set my soul on fire, if that makes, it's so cheesy. It's just something that I say, like, if you're not doing something that sets your soul on fire, then you're on the wrong path. So yeah, it definitely kind of changed the way I thought as I was, growing up through the military. I enlisted when I was 18. So it definitely changed kind of how I saw things.
Yeah, you've got that even to a further extent, because I know just from working in offensive security, if you're out somewhere, I've been at airports before and saw USB thumb drives laying on the ground, and you just think automatically there's something malicious on there. I'm going to plug this in as malware and they're going to get a shell to my system.
Yep.
So you just don't look at things the same way when you understand that. That's even like when I get junk mail in my mail each day, my snail mail, you really, when you kind of understand social engineering and some of the techniques that they use, it really annoys you that marketing uses those same techniques.
I completely agree. When I worked, or whenever I work in a company that has marketing and I get an email from them, 7 times out of 10, I have to go to them and say, hey, this is not a good tactic. Like, this is something that I would use on an engagement or something, it's, yeah.
Yeah, I could go on about that, because I had bought a car in 2019, and it annoys me that some of these car salespeople will give your information out to people, and so they're trying to sell you extended warranties, and they're using social engineering to do that, and it's really kind of annoying. You can't imagine how many people that don't understand that area, or the elderly, they get that stuff and they think their warranty is going to expire, and they sign up for an extended warranty that they don't need. And
and that's another reason that kind of drove me to do this. Like I said, I was focused, outside of the country, deployed to different countries, and I was protection just runs in my DNA. Like when I was younger, I wanted to be a police officer. Well, I think I wanted to be a teacher first, but that still stands true. I love teaching, but I wanted to be a police officer. Then I wanted to be in the military. Like I just, protection, I want to keep the people around me safe. And scammers like that, taking advantage of, the elderly and people who just don't know, it really makes me irrationally angry. So anything that I can do to raise awareness or to help someone that doesn't understand, that is something that I really love doing. So
that's good. And we need people like, we really need some, training security awareness for the average person, because some of the stuff people are not aware of what's going on. And if you're not working for a corporation getting the security awareness training, a lot of people are missing out on this, because that's pretty noticeable from social media. You see on Facebook, everyone posts up the little thing saying that Bill Gates is going to give them $1,000 or $1 million or whatever if they forward this, or if they put this little thing up, this privacy notice, then Facebook can't use their pictures or information and stuff. So there's definitely a need for that.
Oh, absolutely. I kind of avoid, I'm all over Twitter, but I tend to avoid Facebook. But it's and then all the surveys that fly around, what's your favorite color and favorite animal, and what's your mom's maiden name? You know what I mean? Like it's just it's and people don't know. I think in this day and age, they're just scrolling. Everyone scrolls social media, just kind of take your mind off what's going on, and they say, oh, this is a really fun little survey or something. It's going to tell me what house I belong to for Harry Potter. Gryffindor, by the way. And these people just get taken advantage of. So if I can help in any sort of awareness, then I would love that.
That's good. So whenever you're getting ready to go, like on a physical pen test, are you nervous when you do that? Is there anything you do to calm your nerves? Any kind of music you listen to? Anything you do to prepare?
So yes, I am nervous every single time. It never fails. I don't care how much I have prepared, how much information I have from OSINT. I am always nervous. There's a ton of OSINT kind of scraping that I do. Social media is huge. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, obviously. But I think about 95% of the time, the moment I get in, I have to find a bathroom. And it's just because I need to like breathe for a moment. Like I've gotten in, and if it's a place where I don't have, say floor plans, or they didn't really post a lot of interior pictures, I have no idea where I'm going, I have to get to the bathroom so I can just kind of collect myself and breathe for a moment. I'm probably sweating at that point. Like it's scary, but it's in an exciting way, not, actually scary. But, so yeah, there's a ton of work that goes in beforehand, but the bathroom is always my first step.
Yeah. Yes, guys. I was watching a talk at NOLACon in 2019, and there's a couple people that were red teamers, and they do a lot of physical. And they said the first thing they do, they go into the bathroom and they carry like a candy bar with them so they could kind of get a little bit of blood sugar and try to calm down and all this. So it's pretty interesting.
I always eat in my car before I go. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And I guess you'd have to kind of be careful with the caffeine in case, some people that might help and some people might make them more nervous.
Yeah, I think I tend to, drink coffee at home. I also kind of scout out the location the day before. I like to go at the end of the day or just before the end of the day, just so I can see the traffic exiting the building. But yeah, the day that I plan to go on site, I usually figure out, okay, what are the high traffic times? Or if I have a completely different pretext, then, wherever that fits. But yeah, I definitely have a snack with me before I go in. And I drink a ton of water. So I will either carry a bottle with me or drink a bunch in the car before I go inside. And then, it's I'm already in the bathroom. So 2 birds, 1 stone. But yeah, and I get hangry too. So yeah. I have to make sure that I plan snacks.
So as far as that type of doing the physical pen testing, are you pretty good at the artwork of making the badges and that sort of thing?
Oh God, I would love to say yes. But I've never actually had to. Okay. I will use a white HID card and put it in a badge holder. So most of the time they just think my badge is flipped around. Okay. So it's not, the most difficult thing. I always find badges. I don't want to say always. A lot of the times I will find badge pictures online. So if I needed to recreate a badge, then I could. A lot of times I'll go on site multiple times. The first time I kind of start with a slow escalation of force. So the first day I go in, or I don't go in, I sit outside and I scope everything out. And the next day, depending on the site, of course, I try to go in with no additional elevated posture. So I have my clothes on. I don't have a badge. I don't, disguise myself. I just kind of see where I can walk around. If it's a smaller institution, then obviously it would be something different. But a hospital per se, I always start in civilian clothes. And then I will try to go in a different way and then elevate a little bit. So I have scrubs. I have acquired a stethoscope. I will go sometimes the day prior and check out the thrift stores and Goodwill, because a lot of companies, people will get rid of their shirts. Mm-hmm. So, at a telecommunications company, I found a shirt at a thrift store and put it on, and it 100% made a difference. So yeah, there's definitely multiple phases in the intel gathering, the kind of recon beforehand, and then the actual day of different levels of attack.
So out of all those different areas of the physical pen testing, what was probably the most difficult to learn?
The most difficult to learn, I don't know if I would say it was difficult to learn, because to me, it felt kind of like a common sense thought, but it was putting into practice that was the hardest part. So the execution of it, because, people, I would always be nervous. So I calming my nerves, changing my body language, changing my appearance, and having people, be able to question me or to challenge me, and me be able to, calm and collectively, that's not a word, to be able to see this is what happens. But to smoothly respond to them so they think like, oh, she's supposed to be here, versus, wait a minute, she's acting really weird. Why is this happening? So learning the tasks to me weren't that difficult, but the execution of them, I think, was definitely the hardest part.
Yeah, that makes sense. There'd be a lot of judgment, because someone, like a disguise, for instance, some people are just not as talented as coming up with that. So some people probably look kind of funny going in somewhere, trying to go in disguise and try to look natural.
That's very true. And you have to, kind of work with what you have. So I am a 5'9" female, and I have, a half sleeve and a full sleeve. So it's, whenever I go into hospitals, a lot of the times in that first initial day, I have to look at people. Okay, like, are tattoos showing? Because if not, and then I show up the next day in short sleeve scrubs, someone's gonna be like, wait a minute, she doesn't fit in. And then I also have to figure out what color scrubs they're wearing, because each hospital is different. So it's, you kind of have to work with what you have, work with what you're most comfortable with, and then just go from there.
So I guess for your pretext too, mention hospitals is, I guess you have to kind of learn the terminology from the different environment you go into.
That is very true. And I was pretty lucky that most people didn't ask me questions when I was like on site at hospitals. I got asked for directions a lot. So that was great. I had some security guards just ask me, in passing, like, oh, you're still here? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even work here. Like, because they saw me 5 hours before wandering around aimlessly. So, but yeah, in certain situations, in some financial institutions, it's definitely, I can't just wander around aimlessly, especially once you get past a certain point. So you have to be able, once you develop your pretext, kind of the quick names, and this is where LinkedIn comes in play, figuring out the key personnel who would have sent you to this location, or who you could say, oh, Steve, something, but it has to feel natural. So, now that I'm explaining everything, there's definitely a lot of prep that to me feels completely natural, and just common sense. But there's actually a lot of prep that goes into it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because I was just, when you mentioned going into the hospital, I'm thinking, if you're going in there in a uniform, trying to play off as medical personnel, you would think you'd kind of have to understand maybe some of the terminology. I don't know. It's
kind of. I mean, like I said, I got asked for directions a lot, but the great part about the hospital is that so many people wear scrubs that, I don't necessarily have to be a medical personnel. So there are orderlies, there are the administrative people. Sometimes they wear scrubs, but in one hospital, I almost walked into an operating room, and I was terrified and turned around and ran basically very quickly. I didn't run. I walked very quickly the other way. So, yeah.
Yeah, they might ask you to scrub in.
Oh God!
Hand you a scalpel, doctor.
That would have been. I would have just cried. I don't know, just frozen. I don't know what to do.
So, as far as learning this kind of stuff, what do you recommend for someone that's wanting to get started in social engineering or physical pen testing?
That is, I think, probably the most difficult question that I will have to answer today, because I didn't have a path that was, I want to be a social engineer. I didn't even know what this was.
Yeah.
I figured out that I was interested in, from a targeting perspective, excuse me, from a targeting perspective, that kind of mindset was very exciting to me. And it made me feel like, wow, you're really doing something. And then once I learned what social engineering even was, I just kind of focused heavily on that. So there's no step training. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I follow a lot of amazing people on Twitter who I freak out every time one of them follows me back. Like Jenny Radcliffe commented on one of my posts today or last night, and I kind of flipped out a little bit and fangirled. And especially Snow will comment,
Cool.
So yeah, there are a ton of resources out there, but there's really no formal training that I would say, would kind of set someone up for this, which I think is really wonderful about InfoSec, because you don't need a degree and you don't need certifications. And that's just one path. That's the path that I took, because honestly, I didn't know any better. And I thought that was going to be, how I did it. So I know people who are light years ahead of me, and they have 0 college education and 0 certifications. So I think that's kind of, another reason that I was excited to be able to talk about this, because there's no set path. You figure out, hey, this is what I want to do. And then you just kind of dive into all of the information and ask people and make friends and make contacts. And, before you know it, you're about to, attend a financial institution's Christmas party under the guise that you're going to bring pumpkin spice latte cookies, and, you leave unscathed.
That's probably one of the things that your area of the field that most people don't even realize exists, that, you're actually paid to, gain unauthorized access to buildings and that sort of thing. So a lot of people don't realize that, because the pen testing role almost sounds spy-like, but when you get into the kind of stuff that you do, that's even more so.
Yeah. And I think people think that I'm way cooler than I am. They're like, oh my God, you're like a spy. Like, all of my friends are like, you're a wizard. I'm really not. I just kind of like bumble my way through everything, and I'm super nervous, and I'm, relatively awkward in person sometimes. But I love it. I love it so much that it's, it makes me happy. So I'm going to do whatever I need to do to keep doing it.
Well, that's great. So how much lock picking do you do in your role?
So it depends on the site. I'm also not an expert by any means. But sites with exterior gates, they will have locks. I carry lock picks with me all the time. But it's not as much as I would like, basically. I think I pick more on my off time than I would on site.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's one area that I'm not too good in. I've done a little bit of physical and social engineering, but the lock picking thing, I really haven't done much. I don't know if you're familiar with lock picks and lipsticks from Twitter.
I am.
Mobius?
Yes. Yep. We have interacted a few times on Twitter as well, and I super fangirl out there too.
Yeah, she's in the Dallas community, and we first met through Dallas Hackers Association. And I used to have her come before the pandemic. I'd have her come to my class and teach lock picking. So that was so much fun. She really likes to teach, and then the students really enjoyed learning to pick locks. A lot of them didn't think they could do it, and it was amazing. She's a good teacher, and some of the students were amazed that they were able to pick it up.
Oh yeah, she's absolutely wonderful, and I cannot wait to be in Texas for the next time that we can do anything in person, because I would love to meet her. And it's not. I carry around obviously it's travel, but I carry around a training lock for that reason. So like I said, I'm not an expert in anything, especially not lock picking. But I have taught and showed multiple people, within a matter of minutes, how to pick, and the look on their face makes me so happy. Like, they never thought in a million years that they would understand, how a lock works, and to watch them pick and to hear that click noise, like it's so wonderful. So I could only imagine how amazing those classes are.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I love to watch it because she's really passionate about teaching as well. So it's just really a lot of fun. Always cool to see people that like to teach,
I agree. I definitely wouldn't be here today without people helping me by any means, because like I said, I don't feel like I'm an expert at anything. I have a really great circle of friends and colleagues and mentors, and just a fantastic community that just builds me up. Even doing this, I messaged a group that I'm in, and I was like, holy crap, I just got asked to do this. I'm not worthy.
Oh, you are.
I don't even know why. But yeah, it's great because our community, it's a strong community. Yes, there are some crazy parts that happen too, but I'm very lucky. I've never experienced anyone trying to tear me down or just be mean to me for no reason. It's just been people building me up, and it's so wonderful. So I'm extremely grateful for the InfoSec community and how they have kind of pulled me in and said, you're great, and we're going to show you why every day. So
that's good. I'm glad you had a good experience with it. It's pretty important to me too. Because this is my hobby. So whenever things are normal, I'm going to conferences and cybersecurity meetups and that sort of thing. So the community is great. We're lucky here in the Dallas area to have so many organizations, but going back to your story is worth hearing. And the most important thing is to get people encouraged to get in. And sometimes when you see someone like a Jason Street, April Wright, Deviant Ullum, or Dave Kennedy, some of these people that have been in the industry for a long time that are really good at what they're doing, some people are intimidated and say, I can't get there. And people need to hear the stories of other people, how they got in. And kind of my goal of this show is I'll probably have people on that are just barely getting started, because sometimes it's more fresh in people's minds how they got in. When you've been in the industry 10, 15, 20 years, you kind of forget some of those little things that people that are just getting started out remember.
Yeah, that's so true. And like you said, everyone's story is different. And that was one, line of encouragement that one of my friends gave me. Like, no one's experience is going to be like yours, and your experience matters, and your experience could help someone. So shake off those nerves and, just go talk. So I think it's really great, especially in today's world of all the craziness that's going on, the way that people are kind of, getting into the field and making themselves better and constantly learning. I think it's really wonderful. So,
yeah. Well, we're getting down towards the end of the show. Are there anything you'd like to discuss, or anything you'd like to share with our listeners before we close it out?
Maybe some cheesy motivational stuff. I feel like I've been saying this all day, or not all day, but all show. If you're not happy in the field that you're in, or if you're not happy with where your life is going, only you can change that. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something, because you absolutely can. It may take you, a few weeks, it may take you a few months, it may take you a few years, but you can do anything. And if this is your passion, be it social engineering or coding or pen testing or anything, you get to forge that path. You get to decide, how you learn and how you do things. So just keep your head down and keep pushing. Like, you got this, and I believe in you.
Great advice. Sometimes we can be our biggest barrier.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. It was great having you on this episode. I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy hearing your story.
I hope so. Hopefully I helped anyone. If anyone has any questions, I would love to speak to them offline, or if they just want to shoot the shit, I'm here too. So yeah.
Good. Thanks. And we'll be sharing your Twitter handle in the show notes, so people will be able to find you.
Okay.
So thanks again.
Okay. Thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Hacker Factory podcast with Phillip Wylie. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.